And with these flavors, we will give people a pack of cards that allows them to make additional flavors by having 10% of cherry plus, 20% tobacco plus, 5% mint. You can make new flavors using this range. So product stewardship is a very, very important part of what we do in developing next generation products. So stewardship is about our duty of care towards our consumers. So it's very, very important that the quality of these vaping products is as high as possible. And so there are three parts to our stewardship process. Well, manufacturers have a responsibility to consumers to make sure that, the health and safety and environmental impacts of their products. But there are three main parts to what we do. The first is knowing what is in the product. So this is about the quality of the ingredients that we use in our vapor, in our e-liquids. So we use medical grade nicotine, we use food grade flavor compounds, we use medical grade glycerol and propylene glycol. We also have a large team of toxicologists who assess ingredients that we are considering using, and they will tell us these ingredients we believe are safe for inhalation, because safe to eat is not always the same as safe to inhale. So we have a group of toxicologists who make these assessments, and they will tell product developers, no, you can't use that ingredient. We're not permitting that for use in e-liquids. So knowing what's in the product is the e-liquids, but it's also about the quality of the batteries and other components that are in the devices. We want to make sure that if there's metal in these devices, that the metal isn't going to sort of leach into the e-liquids. So we've got a very, very careful stewardship process in this regard. We also want to make sure that there's no risk to consumer safety. So again, this is about making sure that we have the best quality batteries. We've actually been involved in creating voluntary product standards in Europe. So we've had some of our scientists participate in working groups for the British Standards Institute and also for the AFNOR, which is the French Standards Institute, to create these voluntary standards. They're around the batteries and all sorts of things about what you need to do in order to make these products safely. And the third part is about complying with legislation. So in Europe, the big legislation is the Tobacco Product Directive, the TPD. Every country then has to take the TPD and turn it into national law. So the way the UK puts the TPD into law is different than how Spain does it, is different than how Poland does it. But we must comply in all the markets where we sell products. And then the other big regulations around the world are the World Health Organization and also the FDA. And Carlos is going to go into more detail about that. So this graph is taken from a scientific article about how we do stewardship of e-cigarette flavors. Now, I'm pretty sure that you have a copy of this paper in the pack over there. And really there are two parts to doing stewardship of flavors. Like I was saying earlier, you need to make sure of what's in the ingredients. So making sure that the flavor, additives, and other ingredients pass the toxicology tests. And then the second part is about what's in the actual emissions. Once the liquid is turned into a vapor, what's in that? What happens to these ingredients when they are turned into vapor? I will give you guys the reference for that paper. But in effect, what this paper is about how we do flavors responsibly in e-cigarettes. This is an area of controversy within the field, and so this is our view about how to do flavors responsibly in these devices. Flavors are very, very important as someone is on their journey from being a smoker to becoming a vapor. They usually start off with tobacco-type flavors and mint-type flavors, but over time, as they become a more experienced vapor, they're interested in more flavors. So we know that consumers want that, so we have to do flavors responsibly. So this is a quick slide about product standards. So in the news, I'm sure you have heard stories about devices that are exploding or that go on fire. There's also accidental poisoning, e-liquids that have dangerous components. And there are some other stories in the news. So we try to make sure that we comply with each of these. So when people say, well, the source of your products is unknown, our response to that is to have traceability in the supply chain. So we know where every part of our e-cigarette and the liquids has come from. We do toxicological risk assessment. We make sure that we have pharmaceutical grade nicotine and diluents. This prevents having carcinogens in the liquids. In terms of the safety aspects, we have child-resistant packaging. That's why the closed devices in particular are nice. If a smoker is sort of experimenting with vaping and they have kids, I think that the closed devices have safety aspects. And we're also very, very careful to comply with existing directives about batteries and other electrical parts of these devices. So we know that standards are beginning to emerge, but they're not harmonized yet. These products are still very, very new in relative terms, and governments are catching up to what's going on in the industry. So I mentioned that our scientists were involved in creating some of the world's first voluntary standards. The AFNOR standard, one of our very senior scientists was part of that. The British Standards Institute, we had 2 scientists who were part of that. And what's happening is that the AFNOR and BSI standards are being used to create a European-wide standard for vaping products. And we are pretty sure that what will happen after that is that the European standard will be used to create the International Standards Organization standard, the ISO standard for these types of products. So we're trying to share our knowledge where we can in the right discussions to make sure that these products are regulated in a sensible way based on the evidence that we have. So I'm going to change gear a little bit to tobacco heating products.